In 1995, OutKast won the Source Award for Best New Group. This win prompted boos from the crowd, but it also signaled to the world that Big Boi and André3000 had just ushered in a wave of music that would change the musical landscape for years to come. Dr. Regina N. Bradley's Chronicling Stankonia, The Rise of the Hip Hop South, details how music, literature, and film takes a critical eye to the post-civil rights movement rulebook and the expectations for those raised in the 80s and 90s. Dr. Bradley talks with us about the song that ultimately pulled her into the OutKast universe, her refusal to place whiteness in conversation with Black Southern literature, and how a Google hangout with her friends sparked the beginnings of this brilliant book. Stay with us on the next episode of the Vulgar Geniuses podcast. Are you currently looking for a bookstore that has a great selection of books? Well, Kizzy's Books and More is that bookstore. Visit www.kizzy'sbooksandmore.com to purchase your next book for our book club. Use coupon code VulgarGenius to receive 10% off the subtotal of your first order. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Vulgar Geniuses podcast. We are your hosts.
My name is Danny.
And I am Veronica. And today we are joined with a very, 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 very special, brilliant, talented, amazing writer. We are joined with Dr. Regina N. Bradley. I'm going to read two bios because I found the bio from her website, but then I found another bio and I have to read this one because it is the most beautiful thing I've ever read before. And this was a special one that was written. Dr. Regina N. Bradley, she is a child of the red clay, a tender of both ancestral and contemporary lineages. That was written by the Honorée Fanon Jeffers. I found that going through your Twitter feed, and I just stopped and read it, and I'm just like, damn. One sentence.
I hope somebody would write something like that about us someday.
I know, someday. Right? Oh, that is just genius. But that's what happens when you have writers like that floating in your life. But the details of Dr. Bradley. Dr. Bradley is an award-winning writer and researcher of the Black American South. She is an alumna of the Nasir Jones Hip Hop Fellow, Associate Professor of English and African Diaspora Studies at Kennesaw State University, faculty editor for Southern Cultures Journal, and co-host of the critically acclaimed Southern hip hop podcast, Bottom of the Map, with music journalist Christina Lee. A prominent public voice and leading scholar on contemporary Southern Black life and hip hop culture, Dr. Bradley's work has been featured on a range of media outlets, including Netflix's hip hop docuseries Hip Hop Evolution, Washington Post, NPR, and Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Dr. Bradley is the author of the critically acclaimed book, Chronicling Stankonia, The Rise of the Hip Hop South. Chronicling Stankonia explores how Atlanta, Georgia hip-hop duo OutKast and hip-hop influences the culture of the Black American South in the long shadow of the civil rights movement. Chronicling Stankonia was named one of the books all Georgians should read in 2022. It was our book of the month for nonfiction in October. And she is also the editor of An OutKast Reader, a collection of essays about OutKast. She is currently working on her first novel, Reluctant Ancestors, about the disappearance of a teenage Black boy in Southwest Georgia. Thank you again for joining on our podcast to talk about your book. How are you doing today?
Welcome to our show.
Oh, what's up? What's going on? Yeah, Honoré didn't have to do me like that. I literally was a bag of water for at least 2 days after that. So.
I hope you get that like on a shirt, on a tote bag.
Oh no, man. I'm gonna have to, book blurb. I'm gonna have to ask her if I can use it.
Yes. Yeah, I would get that tattooed on me, but that's just me.
Yeah,
But
no.
before we start, I'm gonna pass it off to Denny. She's got some questions to ask you before we get down to the nitty-gritty about the book.
I mean,
Ooh, fanciful. I'm scared.
this is also the nitty-gritty. So this is a consensus question. What are your top 5 favorite OutKast songs?
Oh, okay. Wasn't ready for that one. In Due Time, Liberation, Bombs Over Baghdad, the actual Aquemini song itself. This one. I'm a little ratchet for it, but I don't care. I really, really love Hootie Hoo.
You
I
speak
do, man.
already, but you spit those songs out.
You know, those the ones that I go to, but yeah, In Due Time and Liberation, those battle for my favorite one. But today it's In Due Time is my favorite song today. But tomorrow might be Liberation, whatever.
Yes. This is a question from a friend.
I'll ask this one. House of Martell spinoff. Are we still standing in line in the picket?
Yes, with a picket sign. I have so many. Like, I mean, okay, so like when it finally started picking up, House of the Dragons was the shit. I was like, okay. I mean, like incest aside, you know what I'm saying? It made Cersei and Jaime look like like a fucking after school Disney special compared to what I was just like, that's gross. You're marrying your brother and your sister. That's nasty. Yeah, but I was like, no, I'm ready for House of Martell. Like there's so much tea there, like so much tea that just supposed to be good TV. I'm ready. I don't want the Jon Snow spinoff. I don't care. I want Dorne. That's what I want. That's the show, just Dorne.
Would you want the prequel or would you want the?
I want all of it. I want seasons. I want season 1 to be the prequel before the prequel. I want season 2 to be the one with the Sand Sisters. I want season.
All of it. Have you been watching House of the Dragons? Were you satisfied with this show?
I was satisfied with the last 3 episodes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I really didn't like. I mean, I felt like I didn't like the time jumps because if you weren't, like if you don't read, George R.R. Martin, a lot of us don't read George R.R. Martin. You know how we do. We just like make our own thing up. Then it was hard to follow the time jumps or whatever. But I'm like, once they found their, once they found that stride, I was like, oh, okay, let's do it.
All right, next question.
You have gone onto the Twitter by stating that Seinfeld and Living Single are your comfort shows. Name your favorite characters from each of those shows and why.
All right. So I also should have put King of the Hill. That's my other shit. That's my shit. My favorite character, all right, so my favorite character on Seinfeld. Like the more I watch it, the more I'm like, none of y'all are likable. I mean, like they just not. I don't have a favorite character, believe it or not. I mean, like I'm an equal opportunity hater. I just like I like it's weird. I like the show, but I'm not like rooting for anybody. I mean, like if I had to say the one I liked, disliked the least.
Okay.
Yeah, see, I gotta think about it. I didn't even. I mean, Jerry probably. Jerry's the one I dislike the least.
Yes.
The one I dislike the most is Elaine. She is like the ultimate Karen. Like as I'm watching, like when I watch, I'm just like, see, this is some bullshit. This is some bullshit right here. You know what I'm saying?
That episode alone where she was dating the guy and she didn't know what race he was.
And that was wild, yo. Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's the ultimate Karen. I can see that definitely.
Oh yeah, but that's my show. Living Single clearly is Khadijah. Khadijah is my favorite. Khadijah is my favorite, probably because there's a little too much overlap between how much we are, alike.
Mm-hmm.
And then on King of the Hill, my favorite character is probably Dale.
Oh, Dale. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It was a really good show, especially with all of
it. Aged really well. Like it's kind of like like I was talking to my husband like last week we were watching it. And I was like, babe, do you think that Hank will be a Trumper? And he was like, no, I don't think he'd be a Trumper. I think he's like a true blue Republican who's like, no, he's just, these are questions that we talk about in my house. Like, will Hank be a Trumper?
Those are important questions.
But valid points.
Yes.
You got to explore characters.
You got to critique what you love, right? So you got to know.
I mean, I just feel like Hank's too much of a conservative to be a Trumper.
He probably be like, what is this? Who is this?
Who is this? Why?
Party I know.
Like I kicked your ass. Like,
beyond, this is beyond me.
So when I first came upon you and your work, it was during a 3-part conversation hosted by the University of Alabama, and the guests included Derek Herrero, Kiese Damon, and you. And I was able to make it to 2 out of the 3 conversations.
Oh, okay.
Only to leave upset that I had missed out on the very first one, the very first one. But what I was able to take away was that I was blown that I did not know who you were until that moment. And you can ask Denny, I literally would talk about you like every other day. And your book, when it came out, I'm like, we got to talk to her. We got to have this conversation. And when you slid into my DMs,
I was offended. I was like, all of these people, all my people have been on the Vulgar Geniuses. And I'm like, am I not vulgar enough? Like, what do I do? Like, what do I got to do? She's seen my Twitter timeline. You know what I'm saying? So
it was hilarious to me because I'm like, the draft had been sitting in my email for a long time. I was just so nervous to send you the email because I was like, she might say no. She might not want to come on our show. I don't know. To get that message, I was just like, okay, let me stop and shoot my shot. And I'm so grateful for having you on. This is a really big deal. And so I just want to say thank you for this piece of art that you created.
Oh, thank you.
It allows outsiders
like me,
like Diddy, and like me, even though it is something that I grew up listening to OutKast, that it is not in the level as a lot of people who like really dove into their work, and to sit there and read your work, it was like a great thing.
Oh, thank you so much.
And like when she said that she would tell me that she wanted to talk to you, I'm like, so have you sent the email? Have you sent the email? Like every time that was my only response, have you sent the email?
Right.
And you'd be like, yeah, I would do it. Let me just do this. Up until like you finally be like, hey, hello.
Dude, what do I, I'm just curious. I'm like, this is one of the shows I actually wanted to do. I'm like, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready for the questions, but I'm ready.
Yeah, we're ready. but like Veronica was saying, thank you for this piece of art that allows outsiders like me to learn and educate myself further about hip hop and its significance to the South. We would like to know what was the driving force in creating Chronicling Stankonia, the rise of hip hop.
So what had happened was.
Yes, we're ready, Freddie.
I mean, all right. So no, like real shit. What happened was, there's a lot of folks writing about hip hop. There's a lot of folks that theorize about its significance and its impact. You know what I'm saying? And nobody wanted to talk about the South, which, as a Southerner, puts me in my feelings. Like, why aren't we the center of conversation? We don't. But so it was like. Chronicling Stankonia actually started back in, I've been thinking about OutKast pretty much my whole life, but I was at an academic conference with friends and colleagues in 2014, and people were excited about the celebration of the 20th anniversary of Illmatic. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, so they're like, it's gonna be at the Kennedy Center, and it's gonna be a live orchestra, woo woo. And like most of these folks is from New York, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, yeah, that's cool and everything, but I mean, OutKast turns 20 this year, what's up? And then folks come to it like that. Oh, that's right. Like I hate when people do that. Like, oh, that's right. So then I was like, let's do something to like pay tribute, to pay homage. You know what I'm saying? So I hit up some of my, I intentionally, like I said, I'm petty. I intentionally hit up majority of my Southern Black friends and we're like, yo, let's get on Google Hangout, let's record it, and let's talk about why OutKast is important, right? Mm-hmm. And the first episode was KSA. KSA is like my partner in crime. That's my big cuz. You know what I'm saying? And I love him to death. He's absolutely one of my favorite people on the planet. And started with KSA, and then I started reaching out to some of my other friends, Monty Perry, you know what I'm saying, Andrea Robinson, Heidi Renee Lewis. I was like, yo, let's have these conversations. What was supposed to be like 10 episodes ended up being like fucking 40. It's 40 episodes. But I was really starting to think more seriously about it. I was like, this needs to be a book, which is like, ironically, that's where the OutKast reader came from. A lot of the folks who are on OutKasted Conversations contributed essays to the reader, right? But I was like, I need to do my own thing too. And I was like, well, nobody is talking about region. Nobody is talking about Southern hip hop, extensively talking about Southern hip hop. Let me put it like that. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, well, that's what I'm gonna do, because that's what I enjoy. That's what I love. That has such a significant meaning to me as a Southerner, you know what I'm saying? But to make sure that perspective is recorded and discussed, correctly. You know what I mean? So that's what Chronicling Stankonia started. It took a long time to write it. Any author will tell you it takes forever to write a book, because I'm a perfectionist, though. I'm a perfectionist that has anxiety disorders. So it was like, am I doing this right? Am I, and I wasn't really even thinking about the academy when I was writing this book. I don't know if that came across. I was thinking about like my friends, my people, the folks I was sitting around cafeteria tables with. Like, did you listen to this? Nah. Like the folks you couldn't be part of the conversation if you were only listening to radio cuts. You know what I'm saying? It was like, no, we can tell. We can tell. So it was like, the people, it's like, we know your ass is only listening to the radio. Get out. This ain't even your type of conversation, right? Like, you don't want to be shamed. You don't want to be shamed. So I mean, yeah, it was just like, it's something that means a lot to me, and I wanted to make sure that I paid homage, but also, gave them that critical framework that they deserve. Their work deserves it.
I totally agree. I'm just curious. You said that, you're a perfectionist in your work. When did you know, when writing your book, that you were ready? You were like, okay, it's done. Let me let it go.
When my friend said, stop fucking around and submit the book.
So you would be that friend, like,
I got I'm really fortunate to have really amazing ass friends. I mean, and I was actually on vacation with my husband in the Bahamas. I was writing, and he's like, we're in the Bahamas. Like, what? I was like, I need to finish this book. So I literally bought my work bag, computer, and everything. So like he was out like drinking, and he was like, I'm gonna go enjoy this breeze. I'm gonna enjoy, I'm gonna enjoy being in the Bahamas. And meanwhile, I have like the wind, like I have like the door open in our room, and the breeze was perfect. And I'm just writing. I'm just like, I gotta. And then I got back, and I told them, I'm like, all right, I'm back. And they were like, all right, stop bullshitting, submit. And they wanted a screenshot. They wanted proof. They were like, let me see. So I was like, yeah, I submitted it. And they were like, no, I want a screenshot. Let me see.
They needed proof.
Receipts.
Yeah. So it's good to have a,
friends that will
friends. Yeah, it's good for friends that I get back. Cause I mean, like, I wouldn't have submitted it, but they were like, no, it's time. Stop playing.
And we're so glad that you did, because your intro to OutKast happened around the same time that I really began to get tuned into their music. in 1998. I was a sophomore in college, sitting in the basketball games at FAMU, listening to the drum line and everybody play Spotty Yachty Doppalicious, and the entire stadium getting hype as we all collectively saying, damn, 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 Jay.
Yeah, right.
And this section reminded me of when my best friend was telling me of his story of when he first fell in love with hip hop after hearing a car go past his house playing Beastie Boys' Paul Revere. What was the song that pulled you in to this new Southern sound of hip hop?
First of all, I didn't know that you were one of them folks that was from the Hill. I went to Florida State for my PhD, but I taught at FAM. But before that, you know what I mean, I was at Albany State, so we were in Tallahassee damn near every weekend at Baja's. So there's that. Baja's was the spot, man, and Baja's in the fairground. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It was the fairground. It was the Thriller. Yeah, I mean, for me, you mean just like hip hop in general, or like OutKast?
I want to go with OutKast in this one.
Okay. I mean, it was Black Ice. I mean, I said that it was Black Ice. I mean, it's a Goody Mob song, but I mean, like they were the feature, and I was just like, who the hell are you? Like, who are these dudes? Like, what is this? I mean, like Black Ice made every single radio mixtape I made that summer. It was like, it didn't even matter if I had it on the tape. Like if I heard it, I still recorded it. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, you know, it is. It was that, and then probably for me too, it was probably Spodioti Dopalicious. I mean, like it was, you know, especially the first time I heard my high school band play it, and then I heard Albany State's band play it. I was like, oh my God, this is it, right?
Now, what about hip hop in general? Like, how is that your number one to go to everything?
It's not my number one hip hop song in general. I mean, like, I feel like the song that I fell in love with just hip hop in general was Lil' Kim, No Time.
Yes.
It was No Time. I mean, like, you know, I had listened to hip hop before that, you know what I'm saying? But it was like, I was just like, what? Yes. Like, yeah, I mean, like, you know, I heard it, you know what I'm saying? I was in middle school. I was getting bullied really bad, you know what I mean? And it was like all the popular girls were like, it was almost like they were like a mob, you know what I'm saying? Like it's almost like they took over the whole hallway and dared you to like try to move through them. And they were just like, you know what I'm saying, rapping no time for fake niggas. I was like, I too don't want no time. Yeah, Lil' Kim started something for me. It was really, you know, and then you know, moved to the South, you know what I mean? It was Trina and Missy. Trina talk about I'm the baddest bitch. And I'm like, I too want to be the baddest bitch. Like, how do I be the baddest bitch? Especially as a church girl, you know what I mean? Like I was living with my grandparents, you know what I mean, who were very much church going folks, you know what I'm saying? My dad was a preacher, so it was kind of like, you know, it was all church, everything. And it was just like, well, how do I, you know, like, because I'm the baddest bitch. I'm like, I too want to be the baddest bitch, even if it's just for like 4 minutes or some change. Like, let me figure this out. Let me figure this shit out. And it was just like, you know, with Missy, I mean, I had been in love with Missy since like the Super Friends, you know what I mean? So it was, you know, but when, you know, hearing her talking about like, you know, Minutemen and, you know, get your freak on. And I'm like, well, you know, I'm a good, clean Christian girl. How can I do that? Pretend. I can pretend to get my freak on. Like I can pretend, you know what I mean? I mean, shit, I was still hunching, you know what I'm saying? You know, I don't know if your audience is old enough to understand what hunching means, but I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? I thought I was doing something, but
they can Google it.
Now, how were you?
Yeah,
you know, a hold of all of that music, considering the people who were surrounding you.
Church.
Well, it's weird, man, because my grandparents, they were strict, but they still let me live my life, if that makes sense. It was like, you know, the 3 rules at my house were, if I go out on Saturday night, I had to go to church Sunday morning, like Sunday school. Why not like regular service, like Sunday school, which at my church started at 8:30. So it was like, You know what I mean? So it was like that was the first rule. The second rule was like, I didn't give them a reason not to trust me until, I got the first boyfriend. But that's a whole different show. That and then the third was like, I'm saying, just, be honest with them, like tell them what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And my grandparents, I really do love them for that. Even though they had like an extremely tight leash, they still let me go and do shit. It was like, yeah, you can go to the party, you can go to the football game. Just there's certain stuff I couldn't do. You know what I'm saying? Like one of the things that automatically come to mind for me is, there was this overnight Y2K party at the youth rec center. You know what I'm saying? And like all of my friends were going. And my grandma then was like, nah, you coming to watch night. And I'm like, no, see.
Now, for those who are listening that don't know what watch night service
Yeah. Oh, God, watch night.
You are at church and you ringing in the new year.
Like, what's wild is that my church was in the hood, yo. So it was like, as soon as like midnight hit, it was just like, let us pray. Pop, 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 pop. It was like, in Jesus' name, pop, pop, pop,
pop, pop, pop. Amen.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, you like trying to like peek to make sure, do I need to like
duck?
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so I was so mad. I was trying to like negotiate all the way to church. I was like, all right, what if we do watch night and then I can go to the party after that? And they were like, no. Oh, I mean, yeah, man. Shout out to Sarah and Eugene Barnett, man. Always name the ancestors. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I had to go to
I remember I graduated. I ain't have to go to watch night service no more. That was.
I mean, it's a real thing, man. When you be raised in the church and you finally get free, you be like, I'm gonna pencil y'all in. See, I'm gonna be a heathen on Sunday sometime. I'm gonna just sleep in, damn it. I mean, what can you do?
you wake up at 8 to be ready for 8:30. That's what you do.
Nah, man, we lived in the okay. So like when the new book comes out, y'all will understand my pain, okay? Because we lived out in the country, so we had to get up like early. So if like I had to be in Sunday school at 8:30, that means I was up at 7.
Y'all had to drive into town, or you just had
man, it was like it was literally, listen, my folks would be like, oh, I'm going to town. Do you want some? Like what?
We were just talking about that yesterday. We drove, we were somewhere in Tampa somewhere, going home to
oh yes. When we had got
to Lake County in Florida
and went a different way because it said that I-4 was backed up. We needed to go a different way, and we were driving through this area, and it was nothing out there.
Oh yeah,
like, they got to go to town.
You got to go to town,
get groceries and all that kind of shit. It's like, yes,
my friends hated me. Like, me and my friends, we would like go to each other's house and just kick it. You know what I mean? They used to hate it when it was my turn to kick it because they were like, you take all my goddamn gas money. I was like, look. I'm sorry that my folks live out in East Bubblefuck, Georgia. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, like only the country folks will relate to this shit. It's like you have the city and then you have the county.
Yes, county.
We lived in the county. And Albany, Albany is the city. We lived in Doherty County.
County.
The county.
Oh yeah.
I'm just saying, country folks, stand up, man. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Don't be acting like over here by myself.
Don't hate Lake County. Don't hate Lake County. Me and Miss Gina would be county girls.
Yeah, county. It's the county.
Yeah. So you used OutKast discography to illustrate the social political atmosphere and condition of the South post-civil rights movement. What was it like to do all of that research, and what were the things that you had to consider when comparing OutKast lyrics and the realities that are happening to the South?
Ooh.
Because to me, that was the most amazing thing. I just wanted to know.
So thank you. Because my biggest concern was that it would just read like a whole lot of album reviews, and I was like, I don't want to do that.
No, ma'am, it didn't.
Thank you. So I mean, like, it was literally like there were some months when I was writing that. I think that was the last chapter that I actually finished, was that OutKast, the actual OutKast chapter, because I was like, how do I connect these albums together and not make it seem like I'm just reviewing them for a Mac? You know what I'm saying? Reviewing and just like, oh, and then this happened on this album. And I was just like, nah, I need to figure it out, because, I don't want it to sound like that. So I was like, what is it? Like, what's happening on each album? You know what I mean? That was the first question I asked myself. I'm like, what's happening on each album? And then I was like, well, what was going on not only in their career, but what was going on in the South, that I was like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? So I mean, like, it took years to write that chapter. If that makes sense. I mean, like, it took years, because it was, I mean, like, that thing changed so many times. It was like, I'm gonna do this, no, I ain't gonna do that no more. I'm gonna do this, no, I ain't gonna do that. It was like, how do I work through that? But the thing that I noticed, because I was listening to these albums over and over, and it was like, it was a joy to listen to the album. Like, I enjoyed it. It wasn't like it was work for me. It was just like, listen and take notes. Or I would talk to friends about, like, I mean, a lot of my theorization comes from me just chopping it up with people that I love, and people that I know love the cast. It was like, well, have you thought about this, and this? And I was just like, yeah, I thought about that shit, but I don't want to do that. Like, I don't I don't want to do that. And but most of the time it was like, oh shit, I did not think about that. Let me listen to the album through that perspective. You know what I'm saying? And I think like the hardest album to theorize in that chapter is probably Equipment Eye for me. Because it's my favorite. You know what I mean? I was like, I want to, it could have been its own chapter. You know what I mean? Like, all of those could have been like their own chapters, but I was like, I didn't want to write that type of book. You know what I'm saying? Maybe later, but I didn't want to write that type of book. So there was that aspect of it. And then like the research part of it, once I figured out what I was listening for, the research part came easy for me. It was like, oh, okay, you gotta do this, this, and this. Something that I tell, folks all the time is that there is so little scholarship out on Southern hip hop. Like, it, you know what I mean? And like, there are very few citations. So a lot of it was me just making up the shit as I go. I was like, oh, okay, well, let's think about it from this perspective. Let's think about it from that perspective. You know what I'm saying? So, I think it was having the confidence to be able to do that is probably why it took so long to write that chapter. You know what I'm saying? I used to have nightmares about that shit. Like, like one of like the most prominent nightmares I had was that André3000 read that chapter and was like, this is lies, all lies. And I couldn't sleep for days. I was like, babe, Andre don't like my work. And he was like, what? I was like, babe, you don't like the work. He said it's lies. It's all lies.
But you know what? I would be thinking about the same way. Like, for real, like real talk. Because I'll be like, you've been writing about these people and their body of work. It's kind of like when we read books, we interpret a book a certain way, and then but the author intended it to be a different way. And then when you talk to them, then you realize like, oh, there's a misaligned, but in a good way. So I understand that like paranoia in your head would be like, what if
that
trash?
It was real. I was terrified they were gonna read it and they were gonna sue me for like defamation. You know what I'm saying? Like this bitch out here lying on us about what she thinks. She thinks that what she think our work mean. We ain't with that. I mean, like, there's that. I mean, and just, the books that I talked about too. I mean, like, Kiese is the sweetest man on the planet. Like, he really is. I mean, like, he's so approachable. And so humble. I mean, like, it's kind of terrifying actually talking to him because he's so genuine. Like, he's so genuine that he sees through the bullshit, right? And he's so nice about it too. So it was like, I didn't talk to him like that when I was actually writing that chapter on Long Division. And this was before he had republished it, redistributed it. So I was talking about, I guess round one, so I was talking about the first edition. And then, he read it. He was like, well, how did you put this shit together? At first I didn't know. I'm like, what you mean? I was like, oh, okay. All right. Don't be playing my emotions like that. But I mean, like, there's that. And then, Jesmyn Ward is the greatest author ever. Like, I will You know what I'm saying? She's my favorite. Her and KSA are my absolute favorite authors. And Mildred Taylor. Mildred Taylor is, you know what I'm saying? She does, you know, these folks, these southern ass, black ass, wonderful ass southern writers. But like what was pissing me off about it was like so many people were trying to contextualize their writing and didn't want to acknowledge the southernness of it. I'm like, how are you? Right. I mean, you know, you see it in the book. I went off on William Faulkner. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? I said what I said. You know what I'm saying? I just refuse to believe that you can use Faulkner to address why Jessamine is so dope. Like it only acknowledges part of it, not the whole thing. They're like, oh, she's the heir to the Faulknerian throne. And I'm like, fuck the Faulknerian throne. She got her own throne. She's, you know, if we doing Game of Thrones shit, it's like Jessamine Ward, first of her name, you know?
Yes.
Like first of her name, daughter of Mississippi. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know what I'm saying? Mother of Black and Miles and Dragons. Like it's she talks about that Faulkner was about. You know, thinking about what it meant to be poor and Black in the post-civil rights. Like that's the shit that just blows my mind. You know what I mean? And I feel like this is a rant. I don't give a fuck. It's like I don't understand why Southern Black writing and Southern Black art has to be put in conversation with white folks, because it doesn't.
It doesn't.
I think it does a huge disservice. I'm like, because it makes it seem like we can't theorize our own shit, or we can't appreciate what they're doing if we don't have a recognizable lens, right? And like whiteness is such a recognizable lens for so many people that if you take the whiteness out, which is what I intentionally did with Chronicling Stankonia, like I tried to cite as few white people as possible.
Right.
That was intentional. You know what I'm saying? It was intentional because I was trying to prove my point. I don't need whiteness to glorify Southern Black life, to show how complicated it is. You know what I mean? And I think that was, you know, a critique from some of the folks who read the book. They're like, well, why don't you? I'm like, because I don't have to.
Right.
And I'm not going to.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why, you know, I took this year to really explore, like, if we were going to talk to somebody Black, that I wanted it to be connected back to the South, because that's what raised me. That's what I know. Right.
Right.
Constantly being seen as this, especially living in the state of Florida, as this place that is dumb. They don't know nothing. They can't do nothing right. And it's like, well, that is not everybody's reality. That's not what we all are living in. And you all are putting this narrative on this place that means so much more to the entire nation that we know it. Like this southernness that we have is what's holding up this country, and people fail to realize that. And that is why I wanted to really talk to y'all about what it meant to be Black and Southern and a writer in this country. And I think you just hit it on the head. You know, it's like when people always want to say, oh, they're the Black version of this white person. I'm like, stop. We got time for that.
We don't. I mean, like, we don't, and honestly, we don't care. Like, so, okay, so, you know, for real, it's like, we don't care. Like, we don't care.
Right.
You talking about Florida. I mean, shit, I'm in Georgia. How you think we feel? Like, how you think we feel? But I mean, like, no, it's true. It's like, you know, I think that's the thing. And I think that's the thing I love about Southern hip hop the most, is like, we're in conversation with each other. We don't have to have the exact same experiences, but we are talking to one another, right? And we're talking to one another, and it doesn't matter if, you know what I'm saying, folks who ain't from where we at understand what we saying. So like I tell my students, I'm like, you know, so I'm from Albany, which is in the southwest corner of the state, right? We have a very thick, peculiar way of talking, right? Like, so when I get mad, the Albanese really comes out, you know what I'm saying? If 2 or 3 of me and my friends are gathered in Albany's name, like my whole thing changes. It's like, you know, I can be Dr. Bradley and everything like that, but when Gina May come out, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is. It was like, oh, I did. You know what I'm saying? All of the fitnas and Aina and Donna. Like I was talking to a student today who was from, I have a student in my class who's from the Benny, and we were just talking about, like, you know, it's about to be Thanksgiving break here. So I was like, you going home but getting ready to eat, ain't it? He was like, shit, I'm about to go to the restaurant. That's what's about to be. I said, yeah. It's like, I'm like, ain't a donor. You ready to eat your mama cooking them, ain't it? He was like, yeah. So I mean, like, and it's hilarious to me. It's like, it's folks underestimate us because they have these assumptions.
Right. Right.
And then, we got to smack that ass with the brilliance. You know what I'm saying? And then we don't even care. Like, we're Southern. We got home training. We don't have to like bust you over the head with the genius. We just do it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We just do it.
With the bless your hearts attached to it.
It's kind of like, I mean, like, I feel like on Twitter, I said this at least like once a week. I'm like, stop saying all Southerners. We're not the same. I hate that shit. Oh, well, the South, I'm like, don't come for us like that. You know what I'm saying? Be like, y'all talking about white Southern people. Just say white Southern people. Yeah. Say their own unique thing, right? I mean, like the joke that I will say on Twitter all the time is like, especially being in Georgia, folks are talking about what a Marjorie Taylor Greene. I be like, she ain't no kid to me. She ain't no kid to me. She don't speak for me. She don't speak for me. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Herschel Walker damn sure don't speak for me. He's from the United States is the best country. The United States is the best something in this country. I was like, wait a minute. I don't know. But anyway,
he's somewhere else. They have kidnapped him.
If you in Georgia, please get your ass out and vote. I can't.
Yes.
Just get your ass out and vote. There's my political spiel. Go ahead out there and vote.
Also our political spiel.
Yes, always.
Please go and vote.
Out there and vote. I just, especially after the Cheeto Menace has announced he is
trying to come back.
Yes.
We don't need it.
No, the world doesn't need it.
It's almost like this motherfucker ain't never left. It's like,
oh yeah.
And the media has refused to have allowed him to leave. I think the only break that we got from him was the fact that he was no longer on Twitter, that we didn't have to be annoyed by the media talking about what he tweeted today.
Right.
But the announcement, I think it should be a sign, the simple fact that if your daughter is like, oh, I'm not going to be a part of his campaign, then that should be like, you need to
Which one? Which daughter?
Yeah, Ivanka.
Well, Ivanka is being talked to by the feds. I wouldn't try to be associated with his ass either. Be like, sorry, daddy. I can't do it, daddy. Not this time. I can't do it.
This time around.
I mean, like, I'm probably not gonna watch it, but I mean, like, Mike Pence is supposed to be. I'm curious. Clearly, I know Mike Pence ain't gonna be his vice president. Clearly, but I'm curious. You know what I mean? He needs to bring back Flashawn. Bring back Flashawn. That should be your campaign partner. That should be your guy. Flashawn.
Oh my God, I think I've forgotten about that.
Oh my goodness. Woo, what a time that was. What a time.
We were like, you don't see this big ass fly. You don't how much product did you have in your hair? I'm just saying. I mean, like the way that the fly was moving, he's like, oh, this is bullshit. I can't even move. I'm gonna have to wait. I'm gonna have to wait till a commercial break. Flashawn 2024.
You heard here it first.
That's right. Flashawn 2024.
I'm gonna get that on the shirt and send it to you.
Tear. Okay, I made myself cry. That shit is great.
So, Miss Gina May, Dr. Bradley. Speaking of our mutual nightmare, do the people of OutKast know about this book? Have they met you? Have you met them? Have you all talked?
So it's wow. I know people who know them, so they have said. I mean, like some of them have. I sent the book to their people. Celebrity. They got sent to their people.
Yes.
So I think that they know that the book exists. I don't know if they've read it. You know what I'm saying? But I just wanted to make sure that they knew, like they know that they've made such a significant impact. I just wanted to make sure. But no, I haven't talked to nobody. I haven't talked to them directly. André3000, he skipped me in Starbucks line one time at Perimeter Mall, but I didn't really realize it was him until my friend was like, you You know who that is, right? Like I'm just running my mouth. Like I hadn't seen him in a while. Like I was talking to my friend Matt, and I hadn't seen him in a while, and he was like, "So you know who just skipped you in line, right?" And I was like, "What are you talking about skipping me in line?" And then I looked and I saw the wind break the. I was like, "Oh shit!" And then he looked and he was just like, "Oh, excuse me, Miss Lady," and I was just like, oh.
That's literally just an episode that aired in Atlanta's last season, like going to the mall and just picking up a pretzel paperboy. So you had a paperboy experience with André3000.
I mean, but I mean, like, I didn't have a chance to talk to him. Apparently, I need to hang out at the Whole Foods. He could be at the Whole Foods. So I got to go on tour. I got to go on the Whole Foods tour in Atlanta. Just, post up. Or maybe I need to go sit in an airport on the northeastern seaboard and just wait to hear a flute. I'm like, I hear a flute.
One day you two will have that opportunity. I know it's coming soon.
That's it is what it is. So yeah.
I mean, if they're not readers, it's on audio. I listened to you talk. That was
did you? What'd you think? I feel I couldn't stand myself talking. I mean, like I don't see how folks do that as a living. That shit is stressful.
I loved it because you could really feel what you were talking about in your book. And I think that was the best way to read along with the book, by listening to you. And
don't make me kick my foot. Thank you.
To circle back,
I probably I will probably never read another academic book I write ever again. That shit was stressful. It's different. It's like, it's different when you get to be a nerd on paper. You're like, oh, I'm gonna just like write this 55-word long ass sentence because it's the academy. And then it's something totally different when you got to read that 55-word sentence out loud. I mean, at one point, I remember I was like reading something. I was reading one of the sentences in like the chapter about slavery and the hip hop imagination. And after I finished it, I was like, "Whoo, shit." I'm like, wait, they can't put that on there. I'm like, okay. I mean, like reading an academic book is some shit. I probably will never read another academic book I write ever again. I'll let somebody else do it. I'll leave it to the pros. I will leave it to the pros.
You should. I mean, honestly, it brought another life. The book was already good on its own, but to actually hear you read it, I think it just made us feel like we were transported into your classroom and you were giving this wonderful lecture. And I have to say that reading it made me really want to go back to school, because you started talking about Kiese's book. I'm like, we read that book. We talked to the man.
Yeah.
But when you were writing about long division,
I felt so dumb.
I was like, what the fuck?
I'm just like,
what did he think of us in the interview? Like, what the fuck did we miss? Like, how did we miss a lot of this stuff? And it was just amazing to read you break that book down like the way that you did. And it was just like, this made me want to go back and I always want to go back and reread his stuff, but that particular section of your book said y'all need to take another look. Y'all missing some stuff.
That I need to take another look, because it was, I mean, like I analyzed the first edition, like the first version. The second version, I was just like, it's a whole nother goddamn book. Yes. So, like, I mean, like, I remember somebody reaching out and was like, "Oh, I'm reading Chronicling Stankonia and I'm on the Kiese Layman chapter. Should I read Long Division first?" And I'm like, "Yo, read the first version." Because I mean, like, I guess it kind of makes sense with the second version. I mean, like, a lot of the major things I guess I was talking about still make sense, but it's like, yeah, no, I'm like, I'm like, if they ever ask me to do like a what is it? They do like the little 10-year anniversary shit. It's like they republish it or whatever it is. I'm gonna have to redo that chapter. Cause it's like it's a totally different book.
Even if you redo it, you could still say this is what he he did differently. Like you could add because for me, I ended up buying both. I had to get both versions because
I got both versions too. Yeah.
How he first wrote it and then the revision, and you just are just like,
what happened?
Right. I thought I knew what I was. I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, okay. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you definitely flipped it. I believe that a sign of a great artist is one where there is a very apparent evolution in their music by embracing the desire to try their hands in genre bending or infusing forms of music. And it feels that when these transitions happen, people will first complain about the change.
Yep.
And eventually, if the music proves to be good, we'll fall in line.
Yep.
As you watch OutKast make these transitions with locating who they were on the map of their individual lives as well as where they fell as a collective, did you ever have trouble figuring out if you loved the music when you first heard it? No, you knew what it was.
I knew what it was. I thought I knew what it was gonna be. I mean, like, I didn't really get deep into OutKast until Aquemini. So it was like, I had to go back and listen to ATLiens and Southern Playalistic. But I mean, like, Aquemini forward, I was in there. You know what I'm saying? I think though, with a lot of folks were mad that I didn't spend as much time on Speaker Box and The Love Below. I just feel like that's the one album that everybody knows. Like that's the main crossover because it won the Grammy. You know what I'm saying? But I was like, y'all don't really pay attention to the rest of the catalog. Like you can't appreciate Speaker Box and Love Below and what that evolution means if you don't know Southern Playalistic, ATLiens, Equipment Stankonia. You know what I'm saying? So I had to I literally wrote that section of that chapter in like a day and a half. I was like, I'm not spending time on this. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because when folks do OutKast scholarship, that's where they go. And I'm like, folks are familiar with that. I want to make sure that folks understand why folks love that. Look at the rest of the catalog. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine who didn't know anything about Erykah Badu.
Oh.
And I was just kind of like, you can't start where she is at right now.
No.
You have to start at the beginning and just watch that transition into
take your ass to Baduism.
Yes. Yes, you gotta go there. You gotta go there before the live, before the Tyrone, before everything that you know of her walking down the street, no clothes on. Like you gotta go to the very beginning. And it's really important because you will appreciate that music way more when you see like, oh, this is how they sounded. This is what they thought. Cause sometimes you see people change their thought process and their system throughout their music, evolution. So yeah, I get that. But when you know, and I'm glad to know that you appreciate the evolutions of anyone.
I mean, and I'm like that, and I'm like, they constantly were telling us, they were like, we don't want to sound like the last album, and they don't. Those albums sound completely different. None of them sound the same, which begs the question: if OutKast was to come out today, would we appreciate them like that? And I'm on the fence, man. Like I'm not sure because one, we don't necessarily do concept albums now. So when they do come out, people lose their shit. You know what I'm saying? The other part of that too is like we don't have the attention span to really appreciate it now. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, when folks release an album now, like you stream it and you can I'm gonna pick track 2, 7, if it goes up to 7, 2, 7, and like 9. And it's like, you miss out on so many things. And I think that's the reason that we're so obsessed with folks like Kendrick, right? Is that he gives you an album you really can't skip. You have to listen to the whole fucking album to really appreciate the genius behind it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean, like, I think about that. I think about that when I teach this OutKast class. Like, is it relevant? You know what I'm saying?
To us, your body of work is a true testament of the subversive nature of Southern Black writers. You have discussed, Kiese and Jesmyn Ward's books, among many other, to explore this narrative. First of all, how do you feel being able to line yourself with all of these people Secondly, how is it important that the recognition of these stories is the foundation, or can be considered as the foundation of the Black literary canon of this country?
Ooh, I don't see myself as that's a very elite club that Key and Mimi are in. I don't think I've reached that level yet. But I did want to make sure that I offered a different framework for thinking about their work, because their work's not going anywhere. Their work is canonical. But the flip side of that too is I feel like there is an intentional dismount, right? Like an intention from the canon. I can't stand the canon. I hate teaching it. Because I just feel like it's very elitist. It stops mostly in like the 1980s. It's not the people that I grew up reading. I mean, like, of course I knew like the classics, you know what I mean? But I wasn't reading Toni Morrison. I wasn't reading these folks. I was reading Mildred Taylor. I was reading, you know what I'm saying, Claudia Tate. I was reading, I mean, I was pretty much reading whatever I can get my hands on, but I know in particular I was reading, but those folks aren't in the canon, right? And I think this is something that I struggle with as an academic, and as a bibliophile to an extent, is like, I don't want to over academize things that don't need to be in the academy, because I feel like they lose their sacredness to an extent. You know what I'm saying? But the flip side of that is that when people do, discover these folks, it's like they try to use all these different tools that take away from why these folks are dope in the first place. You know what I mean? And I just wanted to provide some tools to help understand Southern Blackness from a Southern Black perspective. There's no shit like that. You know what I mean? And not no shit like that in terms of, it doesn't exist. I mean, like, it's slowly coming together, but I mean, like, in terms of a contemporary Southern Black experience, there is very little. A lot of folks thinks that, the civil rights movement, that's it. That is the apex of modernity. It's like, this is the contemporary South. And those of us that were born and raised in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, we like, well, where do we fit? We don't fit into the civil rights movement. I didn't experience segregation like that. I didn't experience, the fight like that. I experienced the aftermath. I experienced the expectation that I had to be fucking perfect, exceptional, because the movement happened. Like, but we don't have those conversations, you know what I mean? And I think that's why Southern hip hop is so crucial to these discussions of the movement and the aftermath of the movement, is because we're asking these questions. What happens if education's not my move?
Right.
What happens if I can't find a job? What happens if I did everything you told me to do and I still can't get no goddamn job? I still can't do these things that I was promised, you know what I mean? And our, our culture, our writers, they ask those questions that, older generations, they don't like us asking them questions. You know what I'm saying? But they're necessary. They're necessary. And I think that they're necessary because now we have, there are multiple generations of post-civil rights Southerners now, multiple generations, right? It's like you got them folks who are in the immediate aftermath who came up in the 70s. You got like me, I was born in the 80s, raised in the 90s, you know what I mean? And now there are students out here who were born in the early 2000s that are like, we don't know about the source. We don't know about, whatever. So there are so many blocks that we need to put on the bridge to make it walkable. You know what I mean? And I just feel like I'm one of the folks who are trying to do that. You know what I mean? And I'm not the first, and I'm damn sure hope I'm not the last. You know what I'm saying? But I just wanted to make sure that I gave something to the conversation, and hopefully Chronicling Stankonia starts the conversation. I mean, I end the book with that. I'm like, I don't want to be the only one talking about OutKast. I don't want to be the only one talking about Southern rap. That would do a huge disservice to the culture. But I'm like, there's room at the table. Come eat.
Yes. I'm glad what you talked about, like the different generations that have come up since the civil rights movement, because even within my own immediate family, between all of my siblings and I, we all were born at different points. So my sister, who she and I are 17 years different, was born in 62. My brother's born in 69, and I came 10 years later in 79. So we've all experienced different waves of it, as well as having parents who live born in 35 and 38 who lived through the Jim Crow era and all of that stuff. So, you know, those are different phases. And then having children come up and just watching them grow, watching my nieces and my nephews experience life way differently.
Way different.
And watching now their children coming up, and it will be something different. And I think when what you're talking about, those conversations of like, you know, you got to go to school and you got to do this when you finish high school, you got to go to college, changed for me when I started working in high school. And I realized, like, this one way ain't just the only way.
The way, yeah.
And then even the only way that we've been told, like you said, no, always give, you know, the gains don't always come from it as you think that it should. And, you know, watching children who, you know, suffer from anxiety attacks and breakdowns because they didn't make it through that first year. You know, I even had one of my students went to Albany, and she came back the next year, and we had a long conversation because she was just like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I was doing there. I didn't know if this was where I was supposed to be. And I had another young lady who went and was there for like a week and came back. And then having to deal with the older generation asking them, what's going on, where you going, why you're not going back to school, and how those conversations shouldn't be happening at that level. It should be like, well, let me help you figure out where you want to be and how we can get there. And I think your work, even though you are talking about hip hop, you're talking about the South, you're talking about all of those things necessary to that conversation. And I just want to say thank you for writing this book, because it's necessary for us to talk about these things on a regular basis, because our world is forever changing, as well as trying to go back to where we don't want to be, right?
I mean, that's just the South though, man. We always gonna have one foot in the past. Like, it don't matter if it's 2158 or 1998 or 1888. It's like we're always gonna have that one foot in the past. You know what I'm saying? You know, and folks are always talking about the future, but you know, that's why we struggle to get footing in the present. It's like we're always trying to look ahead or look at you know, we don't focus on that. But I mean, like, you know, I feel that though. Like, I mean, I talk to my own students, and I have a lot of students who are, you know, who have anxiety, severe anxiety, right? You know, I have the ones who overachieved. I was one of the overachievers. I thought I was gonna lose my shit when I got my first C in college. I was like, oh God, I'm gonna lose everything. I'm gonna lose hope. I'm gonna lose. I mean, like, you know, I literally went down this spiral. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of students have that immense pressure on themselves to be exceptional. You know what I'm saying? And college, I just feel like college ain't meant to be exceptional, man. Like, college, you're supposed to figure out what you want to do. You're supposed to fuck up. Like, you know what I'm saying? You're supposed to figure it out. And it's like, that's on so many levels. I'm not even just talking about like academics. Like, I talk to these kids and I'm like, I mean, you're supposed to start making your own choices. Like, you know, I tell my fresh people, I'm like, yo, if you're thinking about shit the same way you did in August, the same way in May, you didn't do it right. You know what I mean? You didn't do it right. Like, something has to change.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, you know, it's different when you're living under the roof of your guardians, or, you know, or your grown-ups. You know what I'm saying? You know, but when you get that, you know, especially as a Southern Black girl who was raised hella Christian, you know what I mean? Like, you know, that first week, freshman orientation week, changed my life. I was like, well, what do you mean? What do you mean? You know, before there was Netflix and chill, you came over to the door, you want to watch a movie. Your ass ain't going there to watch no goddamn movie. You know what I mean? You used to dealing with 15, 16, 17-year-old boys. You go to college, you dealing with 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old men. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, like I tell myself, like I laugh, but it's true. It's like, you know, all them things that we're talked about, like being hoish, you know what I'm saying? In high school, that's pregame in college. It's like,
yeah.
Then like I'm like, oh, what do you mean that's pregame? Like, I don't want you to think that I'm a hoe. And they'd be like, oh, okay, cool. And then like escort your ass out and call the next girl who will be like, and you wondering like, what am I not doing? Like, what am I not doing? Why aren't you appreciating me being a good, clean Christian girl? I mean, contrary to popular belief, most folks ain't going to college to find, you know, marriage.
Right.
You know, I got fucked up. I found my husband when I was 20. He took me out the game early.
If you're a good Christian girl.
Well, at the time I had broke that streak when I met my husband. But but I mean, it's true, yo. It's like, you know what I mean? But I mean, like, but, you know, that's why I'm like, you have to live for yourself. You know what I mean? And I think that that's something that low key is one of the biggest challenges of being in the South. You live for everybody else but you.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially as you know, women identify folks. We live for everybody else but us.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If I fuck up, it's not just my fuck up. It's a stain on the whole family.
Yep. It's a domino effect.
Yeah, and you just kind of like, you know, and they won't let you live it down either. They're like, well, you remember when you did so and so, and you just gonna be like, but ma'am, I'm almost 40. I was 17 when I did that.
Right. People don't forget.
Yeah, but like I said, that's in the new book I'm working on. So
can't wait for that. Can't wait.
Juicy.
So when you think about the country as a whole, and you think about what the South has to say, do you feel like they get it now? Do you feel like they're still struggling to understand?
Yeah, I feel like there's still a struggle to understand because folks think South means everybody under one, like some kumbaya shit. And I'm like, it's not. The South ain't a monolith. We're not, you know what I mean? We have common threads, but we don't have cookie cutter experiences. And a lot of folks wish that we did because it'll make it so much easier to diss us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The South is complicated, man. It's complicated. Of course, there's trauma. Of course, there's white supremacy. Of course, there's all these things, but there's also those things that you don't understand because you're not wanting to. The joy in being a Southerner. Nobody's like us. We hit different. Nobody's like us. Nobody is a cultural genius like us. You know what I mean? I mean, like nobody protests in a radical tradition like us. But all of that gets pushed aside. Huh?
No one calls the bullshit out like we do.
Sit out like a Southerner. You know what I mean? It depends on if we like you or not. If we like you, we will lay you down gentle. Oh, honey. That's a shame, Sugarfoot. That's not right.
It's an art.
Yeah. Or if we don't like you, hey, cuz. That's some bullshit. Don't bring that bullshit over here.
Make it plain, read you to feel.
I mean, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, the South is complicated. Folks don't like the South being complicated because apparently that takes the shine away from everybody else that's more sophisticated. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, y'all just as racist, if not worse than us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Folks be like, oh, the Klan. I'm like, the Klan started in Indiana.
Yes.
Indiana.
You talking about what? The Midwest?
The Midwest. So I just, you know, yeah, we're damned if we do and damned if we don't.
Now we have come to the part of our conversation that I particularly like the most, and we ask everybody, no matter if you're a writer, a musician, artist, we want to know your top 5. And given the conversation, we would like to know your top 5 most favorite Southern writers of all time. Now we know that this could just be
or
a list, you know, just for today. It could change, but we also like to give you an alternate question if that one's too hard.
Okay.
What are your top 5 favorite Southern writers that you're excited that you want people to know about today?
Or a combination of both?
Yeah, I like the combination of both. Let's see. Oh. Jasmine Ward, favorite of all time. PSA is a favorite of all time. Mildred Taylor is a favorite of all time. Zora Neale Hurston is a favorite of all time. Oh, Randall Keenan is a favorite of all time. They're my top 5. Folks that I want people to know about. That's a hard one. That's really good too. Honore Jeffers. I mean, like, folks, you know, I'm like, yeah, she was the Oprah's book club pick, but I mean, like, seriously, sit with all of her work. She is amazing. John Jennings. He's a visual artist, but he does all of it. But his work is just like ridiculously amazing. I don't know. It's hard, man. And the reason that it's hard is because it's like I haven't, you know, it's been a rough year. It's been a rough 6 months for me, a rough year for me. So I haven't really been reading like that. I just try to, you know, make it day by day. But I do, but I mean, like, you know, she's my favorite, one of my favorites of all times. But Elnora Tate, though, I mean, like, you know, The Secret of Gumbo Grove is one of the best books I have ever read in my entire life, right? It's based in like South Carolina, you know what I'm saying? Intozaki Shange isn't Southern, but Sassafras, Cypress, and Indigo is like goat shit. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's absolutely phenomenal, right? Yeah, I mean, like, I just feel like I have so much to catch up on, you know what I'm saying? And that's also the plight of an academic. Our focus is so narrow that we only like focus on this one small little thing. So I literally have like stacks of books, both in my Amazon cart and I don't buy from Amazon. It just lets me put it all in one place so I can order from somewhere else. For real. Like I literally used to be like, oh, I need this, right? Oh, wait, Zandria Robinson, who's a scholar, but the way that she writes, man, is go shit. She is this generation Zora. I'm telling you. Ooh. She's this generation. She is this generation's Zora. She's this generation's Southern hip hop Zora. Zandria Felice Robinson.
Gonna have to look into that because Zora is one of my top. That's my top. That is my top. So
she has a
tattoo. I have a tattoo dedicated just.
I love it. I love it. But yeah, man, Zan is on some goat shit. Like absolutely powerful. I love her writing. She makes me want to go back to the thinking shed quite often.
That's what's up.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, like, you know, off the rip, those are the folks that I wish folks would kind of like get in on. Yeah.
Well, like I had said at the top of the hour, just thank you so much for coming on the show and talking with us. This has been a pleasure and a treat to be able to share this space, to laugh and discuss your work and to discuss the South and our mutual love of being from it and living in it and breathing it, all of it in every single day. We are excited to see whatever else that you put out into the world and whatever comes next. And we just pray and that you just continue to have a successful career.
Thank you.
We know that this year has been a crazy one, but we pray that you will find stability, that you will be able to move to wherever else it is that you're trying to go to. And just thank you for giving a little bit of your life within your writing for us to hold on to. And thank you for saying that you come on the show.
I mean, I was waiting on my invitation. I'm gonna keep saying that. Like all these other dope people been on there. I'm not dope enough yet. All right, we gonna see.
No, ma'am. We were just a little scared. But for reals, we really thank you for sharing all of this knowledge. I was immersed in it. In the beginning, I was telling Veronica, I'm like, but I don't know nothing. I don't know as much. I felt like I was inadequate reading your book. But when I read it, I'm like, oh, she's just like a friend telling me a story.
Thank you.
You know, and a story that I need to learn more about. And then after I read it, I'm like, you did it. Like you did.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. That means a lot. Because some folks, some academics fall flat. It's kind of like you have that small little niche who know what you're talking about, but it really means a lot for folks who both in and outside of the academy to be like, yo, I read it and that shit hit. And I'm like, oh, thank God. So thank you so much. I mean, like, your kind words really mean a lot. Thank you very much.
And with your next creation, it won't take us that long of a time to invite you to come back. We promise.
We're gonna see. I'm like, okay.
You go ahead and draft that email right now. Well, until we meet again, Dr. Bradley, just thank you again, and you be safe out there.
Y'all too. Y'all take care. Thank you so much for having me. This is great.
Right, thank you. Take care. Have a good night.
Good night.
All right.
We hope you enjoyed our show.
Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Vulgar Geniuses.
Our theme song that you're nodding your head along to was produced by Sean Kantrowitz. You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Sean Dammit. That's SeanDammit.
Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our podcast. See you soon.
Deuces.